mountain main is sloppy, and we are off the turf, so every race will be contested on the 1 mile, almost 1 mile main track at the place the action peaks. Welcome, and I am Mark Patterson, the dressed up guy. Somebody remarked last night when I had one of my old battered hoodies on that looked like a monk or something like that. And I wear hoodies a lot, even in the summertime, because it seems like I'm always coming to the gym or headed to the gym or doing some kind of an uphill hike because I do have a heart condition, atrial fibrillation. And I've been an AFib for a long time, for decades, in fact. And so I want to get exercise and I want to do hikes uphill, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. And the hoodies better absorb the sweat. And they keep me warm in the wintertime, and they're not too hot, not as hot as you would think in the wintertime, in the summertime, rather. And plus, they don't make me look quite as fat. So I wear hoodies all the time, but I was hoodie shamed last night in the comments section. So tonight, this is my version of dressed up. A Pirates golf shirt. See the P logo there? Devout Pittsburgh Pirate fan. The mountain is part of the greater Pittsburgh area, by the way. If you want to know where we're at, then just imagine or take a map and put your finger smack dab down on where West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio all touch. And many a day, in fact, maybe most days for the last several decades, I've spent some time in each one of the states. So I think maybe that has saved me from having a West Virginia dialect, because there was a distinct way of talking that West Virginians have. I've been told that I'm accent neutral. And I think that's maybe because they kind of offset each other and they all mix together in my lingo, and you can't really tell. Anyways, the last time the mountain main was sloppy, it was not speed favoring. In fact, closers had a field day. That is not the norm for an off track at the place the action peaks. So we'll see if it plays that way tonight or not. Did not get a chance to work out today. Did have a good look at the past performances. And I shouldn't say this because I'm going to lose eyeballs the second I do. And welcome, and I am Mark Patterson, and this is my new YouTube channel. So if you have managed to join me, please spread the word, as the banner says, and like and subscribe, because I guess it helps me out somewhere down the line. But anyways, yeah, I looked at the past performances at some length today. And I shouldn't say this because I'm going to lose viewers tonight. Anyways, lose my viewer count, my all-important viewer count. But this is an abysmal program from Mountaineer tonight. Just borders on unbettability. I mean, seriously, just bad races tonight. And nobody that really jumps at me for any kind of value, or even is such an incredibly likely winner that I'd be willing to accept some kind of an extremely short price. But anyway, I almost forgot that today is my wife's birthday. And she's the best at remembering that stuff and treats my birthday and my son's birthdays like festivals. As a matter of fact, Michael used to needle me about it and say, is this birthday Festivus? Because in my case, in Shane's case, as far as Jan, my wife, went, they were week-long festivals, just gifts, home-cooked dinners, cakes, and just the whole 9 yards. So the least I could do when I woke up this morning and realized belatedly that today was her day. And man, I'm glad I happened to remember. I went hurriedly and got her a car and a pair of Skechers slip-ons because sometimes her feet bother her. So I came through. And I even bought a couple of birthday balloons. So I'm kind of proud of myself. Let's take a look at the opener. This was supposed to be 5 furlongs on the turf. Instead, it's going to be the same distance on that sloppy main track at Mountaineer. And this is the kind of race I'm talking about tonight. I mean, seriously, what are you going to do with this race? Because anybody who's been on a ticket has run too many times. We've got an 0 for 28 in here, the Groom's Jewel. How many times have we watched the Groom's Jewel? We have got an 0 for 22 in here, Way of Appeal. We have got an 0 for 23. And not to be outdone, all roads to Dennis, and some of these horses seem to emanate from the Devon Mule Barn. We've got the 0 for 36, all roads to Dennis, who, believe it or not, has knocked down $45,000. So there's money in remaining a maiden, especially a West Virginia bred maiden, because this horse has averaged about $1,300 per start. So clearly, when you campaign a horse like All Roads to Dennis, you're not in the business of winning races. It's not that you don't try, because that old school stuff of keep the condition, run second. And you could hear that stuff around the racetrack from the time I was 8 years old. Yeah, they want to run second and keep the condition. No, they don't. Not these days, because the amount of purse money that goes to the winner compared to the portion that is allotted to the place horse is just too disproportionate. It just is. They want to win and then try and run some seconds and thirds in the next higher condition. But I look at this and I say sarcastically, and this kind of remark used to get me in trouble when I was doing the live stream, when I was doing the feed, the in-house signal from Mountaineer. Is this a great country or what? And I'd say it sarcastically. And some chiding remarks, some needling remarks that I used to make about the West Virginia bred program at Mountaineer are some of the only remarks that ever got me in hot water with management, because the West Virginia bred faction, the trainers, the breeders, the owners, are very loud and carry a lot of clout. And when you work in a racing office and have any authority, racing secretary, something like that, director of racing, then you have to appease them, because they carry that we're homegrown here. We're committed to the racing program. We have roots put down. They carry that around like a cudgel they will bludgeon you with the first time you don't use one of the races that they think had a correct count. So you have to get along. And I'm sure this is the case at nearly every racetrack in America. You have to appease the state-bred faction because they carry a disproportionate amount of clout. Now, there were times we needed the warm bodies, and I was never not willing to give the program a fair shake, but I've just never been a big fan of the Northern West Virginia breds, because the Charlestown state restricted are so much faster, so much classier. The program's been so much more successful. I can remember when it first came in, the West Virginia bred thing, and this is a good while ago, but it seems like just yesterday to me, when the whole pitch was, this is going to bring people in to buy farms, to build farms. Veterinarians will move here to take care of all these classy West Virginia breds we're going to start to churn out. More agriculture, more crops to be grown, more tech, a thriving leather business. No, none of it ever happened. None of it ever happened because West Virginia's state bred program stunted. Just never really took off and flew. It just didn't happen. And that's the kind of thing that I couldn't say when I was on the Mountaineer feed, but now I can say what I want because it's my channel. And horses like All Roads to Dennis are the reason that the folks that turn out West Virginia breds lobby so vociferously and advocate with such loud voices for horses that can't run 6 furlongs in 1:16 because they can make money in those restricted races that usually come up with short fields anyways. So I'm going to get off my soapbox now. You guys know me. I am Mark Patterson. And go check out the odds board. And those are just facts. Absolute facts. Abysmal field in the first race here. As a matter of fact, the aforementioned All Roads to Dennis, who will probably win now with his 14 times second or third, is 2-1. He's only 2-1. That's the kind of field we're talking about here. The probable favorite, though, come post time is number 6, Midnight Stroller. Midnight Stroller's got to be the chalk, right? Because the last 2 times Midnight ran in sprints against his own ilk, fellow West Virginia breds. Midnight Stroller ended up second, competitive seconds, was in a little bit of trouble last time. At about the 8th pole, not so much a deep stretch, but at about the 8th pole, did hang when he made a renewed run after they got away from him on the turn. Spotty performance because his talent's extremely spotty with the 0-for-23 record there. But if you can buy her in the mid-20s like Midnight Stroller does, then that might make you zip pocket compared to these horses. It really might. And he's going to be the favorite here, Midnight Stroller, who's 4-1 right now. Team Mischievous. taken support. And Team Mischievous is a horse that I would look at if I intended to bet this race, and I'm not at all sure that I want to do that. Team Mischievous took play as a first-time starter, which is an angle I like when they come back second time to the post, especially if some time passes after a real debacle in that initial outing. Sometimes the fact that they took play is the tell. There's more talent there than the ugly running line might indicate. And the subsequent time away from the races gives the horse time to grow up, gives them time to retool and hit the reset button and take another run at it. And that could be the case with Team Mischief, who gets the classic maiden makeover, blinkers on and first-time Lasix here on Team Mischievous, who is 2-1. Dark Kestrel, the sire of Team Mischievous, was a Lou Roberto horse, who I think sired Storm of the Century. That's the title of my favorite Stephen King work. It's not even a novel. It's kind of a television play. And the miniseries, I just love Storm of the Century. But anyways, Storm of the Century, I think, won a sprint stakes or two, an open allowance or two at Mountaineer, and had a lot of speed. But Dark Kestrel has not necessarily been bred to the best mares. Misty Slew is the dam of Team Mischievous. And her only other horse to get to the races is a Team Rama Jamma, and you can see what those past performances look like. So the mare is not really a producer as far as I can tell. And if Team Mischievous has any talent at all, they've certainly kept it under wraps in the AM. And this barn, I think, and I'm not talking about the matriarch, I'm talking about the patriarch, the jockey, I think could be kind of clever sometimes. 5-2 on Team Mischievous there. So how clever can they be? Because they're not going to get much of a price on Team Mischievous here. Does anybody know what time the Pirates play tonight? I got my season-long wager on the Buccos to win 79 or more games, and I was a breeze. I was going to win it in a walk without going to the stick about 3.5, 4 weeks ago. Then the disastrous Western field trip, Dodgers, etc. It just all tanked. And now I think I'm going to struggle for them to finish no lower than 3 games under 500, which is 79 and 83 record would amount to, right? Love the wager, but I'm going to sweat it now every single pitch. I'm not sure who goes to the mound for the Buccos tonight either. And I'm going to flip over and check out the comment section now. I hope you guys are with me in the comment section. Yeah, we got some comments here. Hubert Gaffney. Let's rock. Card is full of cash. My man likes this program a lot more than I do, huh? And you know what? Bad horses don't make a bad card for me, Mr. Gaffney. No, not at all. Because my motto here in the dungeon, one of my mottos, one of them is, after somebody called me an old head, and accurately so, it's always 1980 here. And it is, because I'm an old school handicapper and an old head. And my other motto is no horse race too low. But I mean, no horse race too low. So a bad card for me is a card that is just kind of muzzled, muddied, and where the waters are just murky. And I can't really make out what I think is going to happen. And with races like that, you should still price shop because it should all be connected to the odds. But a bad card for me is not a cheap card necessarily. It's a card that I really can't sink my teeth into, and a card that maybe has too many variables that I can't just attach a strong opinion to. So who else do we have in the comments section here? We've got Andy Schnell, my man. Good evening, he says. Tom Kurtz is here. Welcome back to a great handicapper. I think that's overkill, my man. I appreciate the thought, though. And so we do have some comments here tonight. I think this desultory program is probably going to kill my viewership tonight because players ain't dumb and have other options with their time, not just horse racing options. And they look at a program like this and think, no, I'm going to do something else. Because even degenerates, I can take a night off and do something else and have the common sense not to invest 4 hours and plus maybe another hour to look the past performances over on a lost cause. Team Rama Jamma, what's up with that 47-3 work? This one by Mike Baird's new sire, who was meant to replace Mockin. Mockin, the preeminent sire of West Virginia bred horses in northern West Virginia for sure. It made Mike Baird rich, Mockin. Cal Nations produced some pretty fast horses, but Team Rama Jamma is not one of them. I almost can't believe that 47-3 is for real when you look at the past performances here, but I guess we'll see. Team Mischievous has turned 3 since the only trip to the post, so theoretically bigger, faster, stronger. The Groom's Jewel is over 28 here, and this horse has had so many chances and failed to come through, but has been part of the ticket 9 times, so you might want to proceed accordingly for a piece of it, maybe, The Groom's Jewel. Junito's Boy. Now, what they do usually with horses like this, they just can't cut it no matter how slow the competition. They try to take advantage of the restricted races. And then after that doesn't work out for a few starts, they think, well, you know what? Since we can't get a $4,000 West Virginia bred maiden race, let's run for the 4,000 bottom, but do an open competition and catch the cheapest stock we can. And that usually doesn't work either. And it hasn't for Junito's Boy as they flip-flop back and forth in dead fish fashion. Way of Appeal, number 5. Way of Appeal was one of the flip-floppers in 2024 between restricted maiden special weight races and dirt cheap maiden claimers. Does go against the boys, but this is one of the few race types in which that can be done successfully. Turf would be another one, and 2-year-old racing, obviously, would be another race type in which the gals can beat the boys. And certainly the 440, the vaunted 440s that Mountaineer so specializes in, the 2 furlong races. Sometimes fillies are faster than their male counterparts. So this is the kind of race where I wouldn't make a big deal about the boy-girl thing. If you happen to like Way of Appeal with the over 22 record, who has been away since November and didn't exactly come back running off the bench last season, right? So we have very quickly covered this field, haven't we? So let's take a look at the odds here. George is in the house. Got slaughtered last night. Going to try tonight for a few races. Yeah, it wasn't a banner evening for me either. Pirates don't play tonight, says Timothy Murphy. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that very much. And there's my man, Scott Davidson, really good friend of mine, said watching in Canton. Thanks, Scott, for joining in. Ho Jin Lee says, good evening, Mark. So we're picking up some comments anyways. I think winners might be a little tougher to come by on this program. And that kind of ran against the Northern West Virginia state breeding program. Would have gotten me canned in like 5 seconds flat when I was doing the Mountaineer feed as an in-house handicapper. So 0 minutes to post. And Midnight Stroller is now lightly favored over All Roads to Dennis. I think that's going to become a wider golf, only 20 cents worth favored now over All Roads to Dennis. Midnight Stroller is probably going to go lower. On All Roads to Dennis has to go higher, right? Yeah, I would think so. And Team Mischievous taking play there at 3-1. Team Mischievous, I think, is interesting. And this is kind of the catch-22 in this kind of a maiden race. With a green horse like Team Mischievous, if there is play, then the value is not there. And if there isn't any play, then the horse maybe isn't live, depending on the bar and the situation and a lot of things. So anyways, good luck here. And I'll be back after the race. So good on my man Hubert Gaffney, who admonished me when I said I don't like the card, then I think it's a lousy program. He said, no, 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 it's a good program to cash, baby. And then he backed it up big time by selecting a 5-horse there in the comments section. So congratulations, Mr. Hubert Gaffney. My man Chris Connors, and I know him and his wife. They've been over to visit me in the studio at Mountaineer before my untimely exit there. And he said he asked his wife to give him a number because he hated the race, and she said 5. So he proceeded to bet the 2, and he is now in the bow wow, presumably for the duration of the evening there. Boy, wasn't that race special? As the first 3 finishers, he's sitting down, came in a combined 0 for 86 by my quick count. 0 for 86, the first 3 finishers there. That race, an abomination on the grand sport of thoroughbred racing. I'm sorry, but it is. It just simply is. You know what I was looking for in the winner's circle? Khalil Cady is, I think, an African-American gentleman. And I've dealt with him a little bit and seen him in the racing office a few times. And he's the listed owner there, and Crystal Richardson is the trainer. And I'm just going to say it straight up. She fronts on a lot of the horses that are in her name as trainer. In some instances, it's the owner who's really calling the shots. So I expected to see Mr. Cady maybe in the classic trainer's position there with his hand on the horse's hip, but he was not. And that throng in the winner's circle looked like Crystal Richardson's entourage. So I think she is doing the training there on Way of Appeal, who was ready to do something. And that something was a half mile and almost 49 and 5 furlongs and almost 103. That's an old Waterford Park wintertime clocking after the surface had been deepened in December and January, like circa 1982. But it was good enough for Way of Appeal to get the money on a trifecta ticket that came in a combined 0 for 86. 0 for 86, folks. Second race. Was supposed to be 7 furlongs on the turf. Flip it back, make it 6 on that sloppy mountain main, which produced an on-the-pace winner in the opener there. What else do you expect with really bad horses when they're running a mere 5 furlongs, right? Who's going to pass who from very far back? It ain't going to happen unless somebody just sits down and walks, which the whole field did there. These races often have a route flavor when you look at the past performances, and it behooves you, and you guys know this, it's job one to just ferret out who might have some speed, who might have some sprint ability. And one of my new features here, and I'll put up the other one in a little bit, misconceived morning line price points is the other feature. But now on a scroll across the bottom of your monitor, I have some race flow notes. And my race flow note for race number 2 is which route specialist can best capitalize at a race lacking sprint speed? Which of these route horses figures to be most alert, if not go out and outright grab the lead or lap on whoever does? Now, it might be as simple as Versatile number 3, who has won 2 6-furlong races in a row, who was quite the 6-furlong specialist, Versatile. And I certainly won't criticize him here, Versatile. But I think he's in a somewhat awkward position because he's not the kind of horse that gets the lead. He should be pretty close to the pace here. But whoever is in front of him down the backstretch is probably going to be some kind of a strong 2-turn specialist. So Versatile may not find whatever leader he makes his mid-turn move at, lower turn move at, all that malleable, all that willing to be passed. And plus, and I want to say this tactfully because I don't have a thing against Shane Speece. I respect him. He's a gentleman. He's been in the game a long time, but I've never seen him win 3 in a row with a horse. I mean, I've just never seen it. Now, this race, the condition says, which have never won a race on the turf. So that's out the window now. In other words, umpteen dirt wins are permitted. So sometimes handicapping these kind of races is as simple as going down the line and seeing who has climbed higher in the condition book food chain. I mean, really. In theory, you get some horses that have won 2 or 3 times already this year, 4 or 5 times last year, against a bunch of non-winner and 12-month jobs whose connections simply wanted to get them on turf or back to turf. So you can attack the race that way, in which Versatile might stand out with his 4 wins over the last 2 years and his 2 scores already this season. Normally, he would not be eligible to take on some of these horses and a race originally drawn up for dirt. So that alone makes him a player. Plus, he's a 6 furlong specialist, too. And then you get the horses that my scroll across the bottom allude to, the Route Brigade. And it's hard to picture some of these horses, at least one of these horses, not out there winging it pretty close to what's got to be a pedestrian pace, because this has a route flavor, having originally been drawn as a 2-turn event. And this is pretty simplistic stuff for you regular fans of the mountain, right? Toast to Coast on the inside. Toast to Coast. I think Arroyo picks up the mount here for Brandon Whitaker. So getting a look from Jayberg is Arroyo, who's been riding at a high percentage in Mountaineer. And man alive, can't remember the race. It was a nightcap, maybe on Tuesday, when he herded a foe for most of the journey. I think there was an inquiry. It might have been left official as is. And then another race where he saw he was going to be second and stood up at about the 16th pole and galloped across the wire because he wasn't going to catch the winner. There was nothing larcenous about it, but just not a good look. And I think this guy is going to prove a handful for the stewards at Mountaineer. His light burns a little brighter, I think, Mr. Arroyo. And he's, I think, a different kind of cat than they've had at Mountaineer in quite some time. So he picks up the call. And what you want to see for a jock when he comes here is to get a look from Jay Bernardini, although he's got to stay true to his school and give Silva first call, because you can bet he came here at the behest and under the patronage of one Juan Pablo Silva, for sure. Toast to Coast has run 22 times over the last 2 years and looked like a tuckered out horse last time when Super Silver Dollar, who's in here, was able to top him with no problem whatsoever. And he wasn't rated back necessarily as much as he simply couldn't keep up. And Super Silver Dollar extended that lead to 8 lengths at the furlong grounds. Now, Toast to Coast is a real trier, just a hard knocking horse who never quits trying to run. Toast to Coast. So to his credit, he put up a good buyer. Did Toast to Coast. Should give us an early read on how the rail's going to be. But I'm kind of allergic to those 22 starts over the last couple of years. Super Silver Dollar, not quite the same kind of long, ceaseless, arduous campaign. As I move back here and check out the comments, I want to keep you guys involved here. Waterford Park, Old Mountaineer, had a runway for planes to land on the infield. Mark, were you around for that? Yeah, double card days they used to land in the infield back when you'd get 12 races in the afternoon. And I was in heaven, obviously. And then 12 races at night, and it was usually on a Saturday, and they couldn't wrap it up before midnight hardly. The nightcap, when they said nightcap, they meant nightcap. I'd go off at about 2 minutes to the stroke of the witching hour, and sometimes between cards or before the first card. It was a festive holiday-like atmosphere. Sometimes it was a holiday, and they'd land the planes in the infield. You know what the famous incident was, right? The planes landing in the infield, Guy? You know what that was about? You've heard that, and it's not an urban legend. As a matter of fact, it's absolutely true. When the good riding Anthony Agnello, who had some money, man, he'd already exited Mountaineer, got to start here, and then went to great success in the Mid-Atlantic region, Laurel, and places like that. And he came back to ride the holiday card, and he flew in on a plane, and the plane happened to just clip one of the electric lines as it landed in the infield. And so races were canceled. I felt like somebody died. I remember that occasion, yeah. Agnello's plane clipped one of the electrical lines, and there was something like 24 races canceled. Yeah, it's true. You can look it up because I don't make it up. So I'll be back after the post break. We'll talk more about Old Waterford Park a little bit later. Some of you guys are from the same demographic as me and would love to harken back to those wondrous days of yesteryear. And yeah, I can see it coming in the comments too, what the theme might be for tonight, guys. I mentioned in the crawl there, and you can see my race flow notes, just maybe something to key off when you handicap some of these races. And I didn't have too many race flow thoughts to put on the scroll tonight because I don't have too many potentially productive thoughts to begin with about this abysmal program. But the lack of speed that is characteristic of 7H races when they shorten to 6 and go to the mountain main. And maybe somebody with a two-turn form, a front running style at 2 turns could go out and grab the leader, sit really close. Super Silver Dollar is certainly a candidate, but I've never even seen the horse try to sprint. I haven't. Another candidate to win the race in that fashion would certainly be number 10, Boldness, who just romped on him last time and chased a horse that's got some bona fide speed. I think North Warden or something like that. A Julie Mathis horse with Canadian form who's got a lot of speed. And the fractions weren't brisk, but Boldness tackled that one early, and that one does have plenty of speed. And Boldness won emphatically. I mean, big did Boldness. And I'm looking back at April the 14th, and this horse was part of the early lead, 22-3, going 6 furlongs. So we see some sprint speed there from Boldness, who I think has won a 7H race or two earlier in his career, and it's been a pretty productive career for Boldness. So I think Boldness is certainly a player here. I don't think Wet Footing's his favorite, though. I don't, so there's that to consider. Although if he's destined to run well here from the next 2 outside post position, he's not going to take a whole lot of kickback, right? Classic King of the 9 horse, Classic King, last time was in a tougher field. That's how come he was beaten just a half length the time before and was still almost 40-1 because that was a much better bunch than this. It kind of set up for a closer there on June the 9th. In fact, it was an all off the pace ticket as the speeds banged heads and melted down. Classic King just kind of clunked in there to lose by less than 3 lengths. He needs help up top, but I don't see the pace. The setup is real favorable to him in here. I just don't see it that way. Storming Chrome has been a disappointment since he shipped from Parks to Mahoning. He was supposed to be the big thing at Mahoning in that 4-life allowance. He wasn't. He was obviously damaged goods, burned a lot of money there, and continued in the same vein here and comes out of a race that was really dead, extremely dead on June the 1st there. I guess he could be part of the pace, and the pace is going to be proceeding slowly, but I just don't like what I've seen from him. And in a race, and again, I want to stress this point. I don't want to get too technical because I don't think that's going to be the mood tonight. But in a race with an abstract condition like which I've never won on turf, when it flips to dirt, and the turf aptitude or history is just out the window. It doesn't matter at all. You want to see who's climbed higher in the condition book on dirt, and it ain't Storming Chrome, who's been running non-winners in 12 months. So if he'd been entered for dirt to begin with, he wouldn't even be in with a horse like Versatile, who's won twice this year. You guys dig what I'm saying there, right? Which to me makes him really doubtful, Storming Chrome, even though he might be your leader. And again, a pedestrian clip to the first call. And it is 0 minutes to post on the board right now. And 5-2 on number 2, Toast to Coast. And 4-1 on Versatile. It's almost like they've got it in reverse here. As Toast to Coast is the route horse and Versatile is the 6 furlong specialist. Now, Versatile's been away since May the 12th, which I think is about 6 weeks. So what it took out of him last time to run back in just 9 days and just to bang out another hard-knocking performance. Normally, Shane Speech would have gotten this horse back into the entry box before now, I think. That didn't mean there's been a likely spot for Versatile. And I doubt if he was sitting and waiting for non-winners on turf, although this horse has been second 5 times on grass. Tough to get in the trainer's head and figure out what alternative spots he might have had to consider with Versatile. And that's how I read these many layups in a lot of instances. Sometimes it's not so much about how long a horse has been away, when it's even up to 2 months, as what opportunities has the trainer really had to run the horse? And to ascertain that, you got to get in the trainer's head a little bit, right? So let's check the comments out quickly. Because I do love an interactive show. You guys do part of the work for me that way. Two loves and off track, says John. No strong favorite on the odds board, says John. Chris Connor's trying to get out of the doghouse. Wife gave him the 3. So he's going to bet the 4. You did not learn your lesson, do you, my man? Another friend of mine says, good to see what you're doing, that you were doing what you do best. Well, it's not so much that it's what I do best, it's just the only thing I know how to do in life. Oh, my good man. Somebody else says you should put Mountaineer in the title of your live stream. Yeah. Am I violating any licensing rights if I do that? Because I don't want to be misconstrued as still working for Mountaineer, representing them, or and so the things I say necessarily reflecting their views or opinions on stuff, because I think this is a pretty well-known fact, and we're not going to go into the long sordid story tonight. My parting from Mountaineer was not completely convivial. That's a word, right? And I just want to do my thing and wish them the best. I really sincerely, I just want to do my thing, go my own way, and wish them the best. So if I'm loath to put the word Mountaineer into the title of my new YouTube channel, then that's the reason. My good friend. John says, like the 11 some as well. Yeah, I get it. One route race, though, that he loses by 20. I don't know if that sets him up for this sense of wonder. And he's another horse that I've never seen sprint, at least not real often, maybe once or twice. Sense of wonder. I don't think he'd be a big shock. I can't shake the feeling, and I do characterize this in my scroll, that one of the route horses is going to go out there very close to the pace and be very difficult to beat in the final stages here. I'm not a tout show, guys, and I don't put numbers on the monitor right now. I don't have the technology to do it. I want something where I can put graphics up there and not just the banners or scrolls. But I could not have made it more obvious that I like the 10 horse boldness. I mean, could I really? And you can pick up on that from my race flow key at the bottom. 7/8 originally. When those shorten to 6 furlongs, the pace is going to be slow. Somebody strong is going to set the pace. And I conjectured that we're probably going to get a front running route horse receive a rare opportunity to set a 6 furlong lead, and they were going to prove too strong to catch. And like I made it very clear that the two candidates to do that were Super Silver Dollar, but more so Boldness, who I went on to mention had topped a very fast opponent last time and raced a very fast opponent, North Warden, into defeat on the engine and put up a big number. And unlike Super Silver Dollar, it actually shown brisk sprint speed just a couple of starts back. So it's not a tout show. And I don't think I have to put numbers up for you guys to glean from the commentary the way I'm looking at a race and who I like. And I don't think I could have made it any more obvious that I like Boldness in there. And I like Boldness a lot, guys. And certainly, I think that was more than apparent from my pre-race commentary there. I don't know what I have to actually put a number on the monitor for you guys to know that's how I see a race. I'd rather not. Maybe I'll get to the point when I do that. Not at all surprised that those two grays with the front-running route styles were able to capitalize on a 6 furlong off-turf job with a route feel to it and go out and get on top. And they're not going to get caught in tandem at that point. And Boldness definitely looked better at a 6 furlong trip than did Super Silver Dollar on paper. Second race, I'm sorry, we're going to the third race now. Yeah, number 3 coming up. And I didn't even realize when they were off there because I was still talking when the field was off. I got to watch that closer. 5 I used to do that at Mountaineer, though, and they had to shut my mic off, you know, because if there's air time to be had, I'm going to use it. Get a lot of views on these videos. I think maybe 800 total views on the last 3 shows that I did. So hopefully this thing's going to take off. And somebody sent me a text and said, Mark, I really hope you make a go of it because I've really missed your commentary. It's not a matter of if I make a go of it. I'm going to do it no matter what. I mean, I fully intend to do it. Eventually, I got to pull a couple of bucks out of it. And I guess I can do that if I get up to 500 subscribers. And somebody advised me there's some kind of a super chat feature in which I can pick up a couple of bucks. Since I'm not working and since I have several K invested in this state-of-the-art freaking studio with a microphone that Megyn Kelly or Bill O'Reilly would envy on their podcasts and a camera that's professional, you could film a remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Spielberg could use my camera that I have in here and lights and stuff like that, and a computer and a printer for my past performances and a TV behind me, which I had mounted with my logo, the Dungeon logo up. So to recoup this money, I'm going to have to make something out of this. So I'll look into the super chat thing, I guess. Further information on that would be very helpful to me, guys. 5.5 furlongs for race number 3. Now there's twice in 12 months. And this race is just a mess. Just an absolute hot mess. And I don't mean it's a bad field when I say that. I mean, the race is inscrutable to me. And we got into this whole thing one day on social media a couple of weeks back, and there was no shame in saying a race confuses you. In fact, if you're being honest with yourself and you know a little something about handicapping thoroughbred races, most events should confuse you. They do not lend themselves to predictability. It's not the nature of the game. So the first step to being a winning horse player, after you acquire the knowledge and the patience, and boy, does it take a lot of both, is the ability to be honest with yourself. This race confuses me. This race just absolutely befuddles me. And then the next step, which is a little bit more subtle, is the honesty with yourself to admit when your insights are not unique to you, no matter how much you fancy the ideas that you've come up with and some of the form traits you've spotted that you think you could turn a buck from. If somebody else probably sees it, that's willing to bet a few bucks on it, or many bucks nowadays, then that information, that opinion, those operative angles are useless to you. Absolutely useless to you. So the only way you're going to make money is if you interpret things a little differently than the masses do, which doesn't mean you always have to get a 10 or 12 to 1 shot. Sometimes you'll see a horse that's 3 to 1 or 5 to 2, 7 to 2 that you think should be lower. And the money really didn't show up on the way you think that it should have. In that case, then some of your insights maybe are just a little bit unique to you. But yeah, those are some of the stages to becoming a winning horse player. And this race just straight up confuses me. You Were Awesome is over 23 over the mountain main. Forget that. Matt Matters, when I took a look at the board, was taking support first time back off the sidelines. This horse was claimed at Delaware and then laid up one start later. I don't think that was strictly jurisdictional jail. And then ran third to starter allowance here and comes back in a claiming race tonight. With the drop in class, can't be wavered or protected from claim, the way the waiver clause reads. I don't know that much about this barn. They got 3 wins this year, this trainer. I don't think any of them came off this kind of a layup. But Matt Matters has the history and the local performance. And so many times when a claim doesn't work out right off the bat, it can work out after a significant rest period when the horse theoretically gets right. And Matt Matters has already run well once at Mountain on top of a layup line. That was before Christmas. Number 3, Jedi's Way. Over to one of my favorite barns, Dennis Cluley. Dennis Cluley gets a ton of run from a horse. When it comes to placement, he's very haphazard, throws a lot of spaghetti, enters dirt horses on turf horses on dirt, sprinters that are out, vice versa. There's Dennis Cluley. But from the standpoint of pure horsemanship, getting run out of a thoroughbred beast, he has few equals at Mountaineer. Mark it down and believe what I'm telling you guys. So he halters Jedi's Way from Jay Bernardini. Now, there was a time when I would have expected massive improvement from a horse that Cluley halters from Jaybird, because Jaybird used to be a better manager and kind of bank on his ability to keep clients pacified and entertained and keep the money coming in and to manage his barn and specialize in placements and jock selections and distance aptitude and stuff like that. And hands-on horsemanship was not his forte. But he has upgraded over the years his team on the backstretch and calls them his team. He takes care of them. They're well paid, mainly Hispanic guys. And they're loyal to the death to Jaybird. And they supply the hands-on horsemanship. And Jaybird's improved by leaps and bounds in that regard, to the point where Cluley's no cinch to improve on Jaybird or even get the same run out of a horse that he claims from Jaybird. And there comes Jedi's Way, who was part of a pace that backed up last time. You want to look for speeds coming back out of that because the first 3 finishers all closed with the race shape in their favor. Jedi's Way should be part of the pace here. And was in with a better horse than Hoy Lake time before last. So he's dueled now twice in a row and then retreated as Jedi's Way. And he's burned a little money last few starts, but lands at a spot here that is not unlikely. First time for Cluley, though. Normally, I would expect improvement from Bernardini over to Cluley, but that water's a little murky nowadays from the standpoint of pure horsemanship. Back in a second. This race is kind of like a Stepford Town where something's just slightly askew with the race and all the horses. Is everybody in here either benefited from the race flow last time or looks just a little bit maybe off form or has been away from the races or has to jump up a condition after a somewhat less than impressive victory? You guys know what I'm talking about. Just no place I can really sink my teeth into this race. Number four, post facto. This barn's having a real good year. 3-1, and is going to have to come from far back at the 5.5 furlong distance. Closers were all the rage last week when the track was wet a couple of nights. So we'll see how that plays out tonight. Now, post facto got a ton of setup in both those outings this year. And it's not like he's necessarily going to improve third starter cycle when a lot of them do that because Gomez had a lot of his stock ready to rock and roll first time back off the bench, guys. But you can make a very plausible case that the setup is there with Matt Matters, a possible pace participant, having been away since December, Jedi's Way, who dueled the last couple of starts and folded. And then you've got Alfie Solomons, one of the horses in here who might be a little bit aged out, Alfie Solomons. He won 2 last year, but 5.5 furlongs is not his cup of tea. And Alfie's not the kind of horse, and I've seen so many spots where he figured to secure command by his lonesome. He just doesn't do it. It seems like he gets outfooted and laps and whoever is on top or somebody comes up and hooks him. But you put Alfie Solomons in the mix, and it could be a good setup for the likes of Post Facto, who's definitely a chance here for sure. The buyers don't really resonate for Post Facto here, the twin 54s. And again, he had the setup in his favor last couple of times. Fat Daddy was in a weak heat last time with a horse named Dunphy, just not a good race at all. And he's 12 years old, Fat Daddy, but he put up the kind of buyer that could compete here. Now, he's never been better than third 14 wet track tries. And when he's 12 years old and he's never been part of a wet track exact, I think that is an indictment of Fat Daddy's chances here. I got a good friend that works at a local, one of those, they call them cafes, a beer and cigarette world where they got slots in the back, duly licensed slots. And the proprietor of these places that hired my friend to come in there and work the night shift till like 3:30 in the morning. Really, you're selling pop and cigarettes and chips out the window, and people are playing the slots in the back. And this guy believes the earth is flat. So I have dubbed him Flat Daddy. Flat Daddy is the man's nickname, Flat Daddy. So we got Fat Daddy here. Well, I happen to know, or at least there is an individual walking around Hancock County will probably bust me square in the chops if he ever encounters me and hears about this, who I have dubbed Flat Daddy because he believes the earth is flat. And you're going to fall off, I guess, in theory, if you drive far enough. Really, seriously. Panther, number 7. Panther used to have some speed. Boy, did that take a powder and doesn't break real well. But if he closes like he did last time against a far better horse that they were stealing with, Dave Treehorn named Buck and Dreamer, and Buck and Dreamer with a route form and a classy form out there on a loose lead, very tough to close on. So big performance from Panther. I wouldn't rule him out to make a little noise here. Gray streak on the outside. He won the lower condition last time and has to step up a condition in here. And the bar's higher, the field is tougher. It won't take a lot to win this, but he looked the part last time, even off mediocre Mahoning past performances, because that was a soft assignment, guys. And I'm looking now and I can see Jedi's Way first out of the claim box is as low as 8-5, even if he is the likeliest winner here. And you can make that case. I don't think I'd be inclined to take 8-5 on him. Matt Matters, more heavily supported than I might have expected, given the absence and a relatively mediocre barn that's not exactly in the news at Mountaineer all the time. It doesn't exactly have name brand recognition. And then you have the Alfie Solomons and the Fat Daddies of this world and the Panthers and stuff like that. Post facto, definitely a chance from out of it. Panther, I think, might be a little bit under bet. Wouldn't be surprised by Jedi's Way. First time out of the claim box either. It is just that kind of race, guys, not a race that I intend to bet. And I just got a comment there. I checked out a comment that said, Mark, what's the key to race number 2? And I had it across the scroll in my race flow note. Look for somebody with a 2-turn form to capitalize on the utter lack of sprint speed in this off-the-turf race. That was the key. That was the key to race number 2, guys. Hey, good luck with this one. I'm not going to bet it. So long shots all over the place behind that 2-1 off the bench winner. And somebody in the comments named Giovanni's Construction, it's probably somebody I know under a different name, darn near hit that superfecta, man. Tough beat, man. Tough miss. I guess the same dude hit a couple earlier. So having a good night and could have had a night to remember with that one. One of my favorite angles in play there on the tour. So does win it off the bench. Horses that get claimed and the claim doesn't work out right off the bat. Once they get patiently sidelined and return with conditions in tow, then they run back to the original talent that caused them to be claimed to begin with. It is just a very potent angle. Not too potent price-wise there, though, as we were talking 2-1 and 3 races into tonight's program on a sloppy mountain main. It's been speed. It's been all speed. But when 2-1 shots shake loose by 3 lengths midway of the turn, you're supposed to get a speed winner. When somebody goes up and grabs the lead from the most woeful field of West Virginia breds ever at 5 furlongs, the race is supposed to be won on the engine. And then even in race number 2 there, when you get strong route horse like Boldness, who's capitalizing on a rare opportunity to set the lead at a 6 furlong off turf race, the speed's supposed to hold on. So I wouldn't write it in stone yet that the course is incredibly speed biased, but it has been speed so far, which is a considerable departure from the way the Mountain Main behaved on the 2 occasions, I think Sunday and Monday, when it was first sloppy and then good on Sunday and Monday. As I think there was a 16 straight race streak, and this is unheard of over the intrinsically speed biased, at least in terms of sprints, Mountain Main. 16 straight race streak where no first call winner did go on to victory. That's out the window tonight, meaningless tonight. I see where somebody mentioned the golf course that used to be at Mountaineer, and I'll talk about that too in a little bit. 4th race, you know, my timing, I'm still kind of getting it back and knocking some of the rust off and doing this because I got to work the bells and whistles here. And that makes this a little bit different than when I was doing the live stream, when I was doing the in-house show at Mountaineer. And we had a production crew that handled all that. Now in here, I got to be the production crew, and I got to be the hamster that pedals the wheel and stuff like that and gets the electricity going. And I got to work the bells and the whistles in here. 4th race is a generic condition event. Now there's twice in 12 months, 5 furlongs. And this is just not a strong field. Just not a strong field at all. In fact, this is the same condition that we just watched, except we're talking about going 16th of a mile shorter. And this is a lesser field on paper than the one we just watched under the same race header, just a little bit different distance. And you guys can see where one of my new features I now have on the banner, misconceived morning line prices and the program odds at Mountaineer, the Mountaineer Lines Maker. I don't know who it is. It's not personal with me. I don't want to know. Has been much maligned and probably deservedly so. And I'm too lazy to do a whole line. And it would be a lot of wasted time and energy anyways, because you get all the scratches, the plethora of scratches that just destroy any semblance of a morning line at Mountaineer these days. But I will go in and pick on a price point or two that I think are out of whack. And you can see where I had Jedi's Way, misconceived morning line prices, and the third Jedi's Way 4-1. And my parenthesized note is will be lower. And Jedi's Way ended up at 2-1. And in this race, Courthouse Cove, I picked on that price point from the Mountaineer Lines Maker. 7-2 will be lower. I'm going to check what the price is right now because Courthouse Cove is not going to be 7-2 winner. Just no way. And Courthouse Cove is not 7-2. Courthouse Cove is 3-2 right now for Courthouse Cove. Courthouse Cove only got down to the bottom this year on May the 3rd. New philosophy to run him dirt cheap and capitalize on whatever conditions they could, it looks like. Ran once for 4,000 last year, but they've been high on this horse. He's a former Ohio horse, Thistledown horse, who's got some speed and is very strong when he's out there in the engine, but it seems like somebody always hooks him. And my race flow note, you can see where my key to the dynamics, how this race might play out up top, a good starting point to attack this from a handicapping standpoint across the crawl there. Will speed/presser beyond the bend, engage in compromise, probable favorite Courthouse Cove. Now, Beyond the Bend isn't even really a speed horse. He likes to go up and sit second and just kind of lean on the leader or sit a close up third. But Courthouse Cove is kind of a special case. And Beyond the Bend is 22 and change. And Courthouse Cove is one of those horses. I don't care what the fractions look like. I don't care what the race looks like from the standpoint of queer and speed points. I don't care if it looks like he's in sole possession of the race's early foot. He just never opens the lead. He's always got somebody hanging on him like a cheap suit. Courthouse Cove. Now, if he's able to get even one unit on this field, the determined Courthouse Cove that I know is almost certainly not going to look back against this woeful field. And he was part of the stiff pace last time on June the 9th that did fold in a better race, a higher class race than this, okay? A better field to boot. A lot of times at Mountaineer, and I'll put this banner up later, you can disregard the race conditions and the trick conditions, wins exceeding this account, wins under this claiming price don't, because they throw a lot of spaghetti against the wall now with their condition book and extras. And you better be a good classifier of thoroughbred stock yourself and a good assessor of performance, because you can't always count on the race headings to be orderly and give you any insight as to what the class of a field was. But in this case, the $5,000 tag did attract a much better bunch than this. And on top of it, Courthouse Cove attacked that race in the wrong manner because they were going at it so hard on the engine that they set it up for an all closers trifecta there in Courthouse Cove's last race. And not only is this a softer field for a lower claiming price, but Courthouse Cove may not be subject to the same fate or to be compromised again by somebody hooking him because, man, by 5 furlong standards, and usually the catch-22 with a horse like Courthouse Cove is this. The way horsemen think a lot of times is, okay, he's stopping going 6. I back him up to 5/8, I'm good, except the catch-22 is when you go 5/8 with a speed horse, you encounter quicker opposition, and sometimes you can't even get the lead. But this race is notably devoid of 5 furlong quickness. So Courthouse Cove might have a ticket to ride here. Guys, I do include track bias notes kind of in daily diary form in my website, and you can find that by going to At the Dungeon 2025 and pull up the track bias section. And it can be useful sometimes, and it might come into play in this race to boot here. As Courthouse Cove is the 8-5 favorite. Second favorite is Joe Phillips. And Joe Phillips, and I kick myself because I missed this. On May the 24th, the track was strongly rail biased. So that definitely boosted Brother Sky, who's back in here. The veteran Brother Sky, who got a ground-saving trip, much to his benefit there on the 24th of May. Now, he could get a piece of this lead. He could be a role player. But his last one was bias-aided, whereas Joe Phillips went against the grain there because you did not want to be out there 6 wide. That was a much better than looked performance from Joe Phillips, who comes back to roll by 5.5 lengths. I missed it. I should have bet out on this horse at 5-2 in there. But can a runner who comes from the back half of the field win a 5 furlong race to post just his second score over the Mountain Main? He comes in 1 for 14 over Mountaineer's main track. It seems like Arroyo has gotten more run out of this horse, though, than some other pilots. And if Beyond the Bend can go out and lean on Courthouse Cove or even Brother Sky, then it could set up for Joe Phillips to come right back and win again And I think that performance was for real from Joe Phillips. His overall abysmal mountain record notwithstanding, because the time before ran huge, quite against the grain of a seriously real favoring a racetrack. The Julie Stansbury horses haven't been fit first or second time back, so Beyond the Bend could be getting good and tuned up right now. And he was 5 wide in his own right, I think, through the final stages of that race last time. And he might get around to winning a race or two this year. Although it seems like he's much older, even than the 9 years old he's listed at Beyond the Bend. And it's not like these former Eddie Clouston horses, and I use the term former advisedly, are exactly tearing it up with Stansbury. He's 20 to 1, though, which looks too high to me, off an 8 to 1 morning line there. Scratch off 6 to 1. Scratch off once the lead, never gets it, but is game enough to keep trying and get a piece. He's a horse I just never picked to win. I would never back to win. Single digit country on Funny Joke on the inside. Came here from Belmont at Aqueduct and started getting bet like he couldn't lose. Actually, was defeated once at 1 to 10 there and came back and won, but I don't think he made up for that 1 to 10 defeat with a generic looking victory. He's got no speed. He's got the rail. He's going to take a lot of kickback. Is Funny Joke, and was closing in last time only because that lousy winner was starting to walk in the late stages. So he's not a horse that I give a lot of consideration to for top honors here. Sadly enough, I think what you see is what you get in this race. I think it's going to be one of the chalks. If Courthouse Cove is unaccosted out there on top, then big edge to him on a course that might be speed biased. We see nothing but front running winners so far. On the other hand, if he does the Courthouse Cove thing and races insistent on somebody coming right to his throat latch early and through the mid stages, that could set up for Joe Phillips again, who was not just run huge last time, but much better than looked to start before. I wish I could be more imaginative. I wish I could unearth more value here, but I'm not going to invent stuff because that's how I see the race. So hopefully my new features that were helpful to you guys, as I did put Courthouse Cove amongst my misconceived morning line price point items there, said he'd be lower than 7-2. He was even money. Courthouse Cove was always going to be a short chalk there. And also my race flow notes. If you notice, those are the two horses that I mentioned. Courthouse Cove, if he gets any kind of a lead there, he's not going to get caught at 5 furlongs. And so he's like 1 unit clear into the turn. At that point, it's pretty much a wrap because he's a strong speed horse who dueled last time at a closer-friendly tempo and missed the ticket as closers did sweep the ticket and dropped into an easier spot. And it's pretty unusual when a horse can shorten up from 6 furlongs to 5/8 and still encounter less opposing speed. The other horse that I mentioned, Beyond the Bend, ends up second there. And I think one of my comments was it should not be 23-1. Beyond the Bend has been productive at Mountaineer. And I also brought up that he was wide last time on an extremely rail favoring racetrack. So ran a lot better than it looked last time. I do not think that exacta was tough to come up with at all. If you just watched my notes there, I think you could have come up with that exacta. Anyways, onward and upward, huh, guys? So I guess the Pirates don't play tonight. Somebody has informed me. Has anybody seen the new Spielberg movie? I have anticipated it eagerly. I like sci-fi. Disclosure Day. I read a couple of bad reviews on it, and a couple of the reviews even said it's the worst Spielberg movie in like 25 years or something like that. My fear is it's going to be all cliched with aliens good, US government bad, those kind of tropes, which filter into modern movies that are woke and stuff like that. What about Supergirl? Is that woke? Please tell me that, and I read this somewhere, please tell me she does not refer to her cousin Superman as a little bitch. Please, no. Do these movie companies want to make money? Do they really? Or is there some completely different agenda? Regardless of my political orientation or your political orientation, agendas don't sell at the box office. So why do they persist in these messaging movies? I don't get it. I will never understand it. My man Bobby from Massachusetts just popped me a text and said, hey man, my favorite horse is in Heart of Straight. Does he have a chance second time back off the bench? You know, Bobby, on Facebook, it's I think one of the options, and I'm not on Facebook. I need to get on there, I think, to spread the word about what I'm doing here. Facebook is different than X, right? I just confine myself, other than some Caitlin Clark comments. I'm a big Caitlin Clark fan, to the horse racing portion of Twitter, X. But whereas I can just communicate back and forth with like-minded people with the same passion and interest that I have on X. On Facebook, it's really different, isn't it? I just have these nightmares that on Facebook, every girlfriend I had in my teens and 20s that has hated me ever since, they're all congregated sharing bad memories of me. And they're going to start right in on me and pick me right down to the bones if I go on Facebook. I don't imagine Facebook is the same thing as Twitter. Is it? Facebook? Is it? I don't know. I was always so anti-social media and only went on X with great reluctance. I think my famous quote one time, and a large part of me still feels this way, but I had to get on some kind of social media to put the word out what I'm doing, because 95% of my fans from Mountaineer that used to watch me religiously have no idea what I'm doing now. Not a clue that I'm even still breathing air on this sweet planet. But I think I once said, maybe more than once, I would rather die tortured in an abandoned house 100 yards from my own domicile and my family never know what became of me than to go on social media. Sixth race, very generic spot. But anyways, Bobby, the relationship status on Facebook, attached, married, single and looking, is one of the options. It's complicated. Well, my opinion of Heart Astray is complicated. Anyway, Heart Astray is going a mile here, 75 claiming no winners in 26 conditions. This was the Jeff Silk course that Jeff Silk made so much money with, and has also posted some wins, back-to-back wins last year, and a 3-win season for the good horseman Jeff Fletcher. He's had a tightener now. Coming back to the races there, did not show his customary speed. He wasn't really sharp first time back. So not only was he short, but he wasn't sharp either, which would definitely concern me with Heart Astray. But it seems like every time Bobby, my good friend Bobby from Massachusetts, devout gambler and sharp handicapper, likes Heart Astray, and I chuckle or knock the horse. Bobby's right and I'm wrong. I've never been right about Heart Astray one single time. I think I picked him every time he's lost, and I have stood strongly against him every time that he's gotten the money, Heart Astray. So don't go by me at all when it comes to Heart Astray. And I see this 5 minutes to post there. Number 2, Strolling in the Wind Scratched. Number 3, no, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong race. Heart Astray's not in yet. I'm glad I talked about Heart Astray because Bobby asked me about Heart Astray. But I'm going to back up now to where we're at, the race we're actually on. We're on the 5th race, which is Never 3 Life, 75 claiming Fillies and Mares. Apologies, guys. Kind of a preview there. We touched on the one horse in race number 6 there. My man Bobby from Massachusetts, favorite horse. I'd even talked a little about social media, right? This is an Never 3, Fillies and Mares, 75 going a mile. And with, I think, the 3 horse out, now the 5 horse is going to be a really short favorite, Prohibitive Jay Rivers. Is this a negative drop down to 75? Not coming all the way to $4,000. This is kind of a new intermediate level in the book this year at Mountaineer. And they fill some of these races. But after being a good second for 12.5, and it finished in the money in the previous 3, which were all allowance races, it almost seems like they're trying to give Jay Rivers away. And it seems like the 2K racing horses, these clients, it seems like the horses they've sent here from Ohio don't really run to their Ohio form. I'm not even sure that Jay Rivers really wants to go around ground. But the bar is low here. Jay Rivers is in soft. And to close that much ground, to be second at 5 furlongs on a very quick turf course. And that's against the built-in bias of a 5 furlong turf race. You can't win from next to last, almost 9 lengths back at second call. So that's a huge effort. And a race that was wired on a loose lead against the grain of Mountaineer grass from Jay Rivers. And you know what? You can close your eyes, drop a pencil, and not miss a race that would beat this field. But I'm just a little bit leery of the drop. I don't think he really wants to go around the ground. And he's going to be 3 to 5 anyways. So I don't know. I'd be inclined to maybe shoot against him here. Jay Rivers, who's 3 to 5 right now. But if he wins it, don't come looking for me because I get it. I understand it fully well. I think a horse that might have possibilities at a price is the one horse wider than a mile. There was a closer's ticket in front of her last time because she did the heavy lifting. She was out there like 5 lengths in front of the field throwing down in a speed goal. If she shakes free into the first turn here and harkens back to that Gulfstream win at 7/8 in February, she's got some back form here. Just wider than a mile. But what I like is the change of hands here over to long shot line line. This is old school stuff. And I'll explain what I mean by that after the post parade. So my man, Michael Zeisler said, don't worry, Facebook's not a dating site. Mark, I don't want dates. I just don't want my old dates from before I was married to be on there sharing stories about me. That's my biggest nightmare. They may run into one another sometime in a Walmart aisle or something, or in a grocery store, and recognize each other, begin to discuss me, and give up my deepest, darkest secrets. But I'll be darned if I'm going to give them a platform to find each other. You get me, you feel me? My man Anthony's in the house too. And I'll respond to most of your comments at some point for sure. Moving along in this race. The one horse, old school stuff. Before horses got claimed at Mountaineer, or really were imported a whole lot, Longshot Wilson Langley would buy horses privately that had abysmal forms. He was cocky and sure he could improve on them. And man, he usually did. And I cast some hellacious wagers before I became an official on this angle. This is first time out of the Langley barn. And look out when that happens. And he's got something to work with here off the Gulfstream back form and a probable early lead from the one post in a race that's not exactly loaded with early foot. There is some other possible speed, Interfury and even Jay Rivers in here. Interfury's 28-1 there. Interfury just hasn't run at all in Mountaineer. John Brown, Will Rogers Downs horse, tough to like. Hard to imagine he actually won a couple of races over the cold weather. Once at 20 cents on the dollar and once at even money. Number 7, Handle on You, always gets bet. How ignominious. This horse has been beaten in Mountaineer at 3-5 twice, 1-5 once, and even money on another occasion. And the only victory came by virtue of disqualification there. Disqualification for Handle on You, who has been an opportunist, has gotten some good rides to go up and attend soft fractions, and was wisely restrained last time when a speed fight broke out up top and the race was for closers. They dominated the tickets, so this horse got the best of rides last time and still didn't come through at even money. Cohart back to Negron, who won this horse a couple of times last year, but got all the setup in the world last time and really didn't impress me all that much. Both of his wins on wet tracks, though. So that is just about all I got when it comes to this race. I'll be back after the race. So maybe the next time that trainer drops a 2K horse in that manner at around that level with those kind of credentials, I guess maybe we'll know what's going to happen. But I'm still not taking 2-5. I don't bet 2-5 shots. I don't tout 2-5 shots. And if I think the 2-5 shot's going to win, I'll pass the race. I did pass the race, so that we're talking about the likeliest winner. But I don't bet any favorite, much less 2-5, that I don't think is just an absolute or darn near an ironclad cinch. Even a 9-5 favorite, an 8-5 favorite. I'm not going to bet that horse because it's the likeliest winner. No, I got to feel like the horse probably won't lose because you have the computer tax that comes in late on so many favorites. Just because you're getting 8-5 or 9-5, and no matter what the will pays say, just because you're getting 8-5 or 9-5 at a minute to post, add 60 seconds to post, 50 seconds to post, doesn't mean you're going to get that kind of a price. So you got to build in some security. There's kind of a buffer zone, some insurance, and don't bet any favorite. This would be some strong advice I would give you. Don't ever bet a favorite that you don't think is akin to a cinch, or at least very unlikely to lose. Because if you start with, well, the horse should be 6-5, but I'm seeing 8-5 or 9-5. So this is a bet for me. Most favorites go down late, sometimes emphatically, and sometimes the price drop with all the money coming in late on the algorithms will absolutely break your hearts. You got to build in a level of security and a level of assuredness when you bet chalks. But now, is it time for the 6th race now, Bobby from Massachusetts, my man? Is it time for the 6th race, Bobby? Or do you want me to talk about the 7th race? Because I'm open, brother. If there's somebody in the 7th race you want me to talk about, then just let me know, man. It was my fault. This is like deja vu. Again, 7,500 owners in 26. Again, Hardestry, who just runs as hard as he can, as long as he can, and is 13 for 39 over the mountain main. That's an incredible record. I don't know if the one tune-up does it, though. I really don't for Hardestry. I think I got to see a little bit more. It took him a few tries to get tuned up and find his mojo last year, right? Hardestry. Number 2, Strolling in the Wind, as we're going right down the line here. Strolling in the Wind has won at Mountaineer before. Mike Jones has kind of lost his magic, though, so far this year. This guy's been a force up until he wasn't, which is this year at Mountaineer. Strolling in the Wind. When he won here, I think it was against fellow West Virginia breds, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I will say this much. His last race saw him perk up a little bit, and Rumjar, who won it, I think a former starter allowance, big heavy boy, Anthony Ferrier horse. So Rumjar, if Rumjar fired, then Strolling in the Wind would have been in tough with Rumjar. 'Tis a White-Faced Cat. If you look at the misconceived morning line prices, I've got him, and I got to kill that scroll at the bottom there because it no longer applies because I'm all out of race flow keys tonight listed on my scroll at the bottom. I like to play with these gadgets because I'm still working out the tech stuff, the bells and whistles here on StreamYard, which is where I emanate my signal from to go to Facebook. It's much easier for me than it was at my website, though. I think some players still go to my website and haven't gotten a scoop yet, haven't gotten a memo that I'm now on YouTube. So there, we killed the scroll with the race flow notes, and our final misconceived morning line of the night is 10-1 on White-Faced. 'Tis a White-Faced Cat, who is not going to be that long, I don't think, because the players are going to toss those turf races out 6-1 right now, and I think we'll go lower. 'Tis a White-Faced Cat. I've seen this horse beat some good runners in non-life allowance races, certainly classes up. He's never been in this cheap, I don't think. And clearly, you know what? Just because it's such an obvious nickname for him, some of his fellow horsemen refer to him as Dennis Clueless on the backstretch, but it's just an obvious knock. It's low-hanging fruit, you know, to call him Dennis Clueless because he's a really good horseman in terms of getting run out of a racehorse. When it comes to his placements, I don't want to use the word clueless, but he keeps banging his head against the wall with some of his horses. 'Tis a White-Faced Cat clearly doesn't like grass, but he's had him out there on the lawn 6 times, including both outings this year. It's kind of like, you're going to be a grass horse, darn it. Do what I tell you. 'Tis a white-faced cat wants no part of that stuff and chased the pace too hard last time in a race that was very competitive and way tougher for that higher tag. It wasn't just a higher tag, but it was a much better field than this. Plus, this horse doesn't want the grass. And I don't think wants to chase quite that close to the pace to go out there and tack on to his foes there. So I look for a massive improvement from this horse tonight. And I'm looking back and I see some good numbers and some snappy efforts at a rod of ground. How about that second to Gone Boy in a straight up allowance race? As Gone Boy called it tune up top, and Gone Boy looked invincible until they put him in the West Virginia Derby. And he actually, I think, set some of the pace in the West Virginia Derby at a huge price, Gone Boy, last year. So I think he's really interesting here. Tis a white-faced cat. Number 4, Grimes. Grimes is 7-2. I don't exactly subscribe to the old adage, bet a gray in the mud. It is muddy, and he is a gray. Grimes, I think, is interesting because his only tour of the mountain, Maine, had kind of a rough trip. Steadied a little bit into the turn there, would have been closer, and it was a way better field than this for Grimes, who was making a good try for a similar tag at Turfway Park a couple of times and put up a big number at Tampa on dirt there. Clearly prefers synthetics, but how about that 75 buyer and that emphatic win at Tampa going 7/8 for Grimes, who I'm not sure really wants a full distance of ground, but that 7/8 race is good enough for me. And that 11 horse field try that found him a competitive third at Turfway in January might give him a shot here. He's 7-2 and he's sure not being ignored. And then here's Bob Inman with a tandem in this race, and both of them having off years. Man on the Moon, who was a good starter horse last year with the 5 wins. Not so much this year, though. And took a big drop last time and got sent, which I think was ill-advised. That's not how this horse wants to run. He wants to sit just behind the lead. Change of jockeys here, I think, will entail a change of strategies. But man, he's got to do better than he has been, or else it's not going to help. He was in for 75 last time. I will say it was a bad time to send it because he was in with a foe who's got a lot of speed, Breezy Money. And I will also say that was a better field than this, was Sequel and Breezy Money both. So the bar's lower here, but Man on the Moon now. This jock change better move him up like nobody's business. Reunited with Oliveros, who won a starter and a straight allowance on him last year, but just hasn't been the same horse this year at the age of 8. Now, he's by distorted humor, so he's supposed to like a wet track, but he's only 1 for 10 on wet footing. The other Bob Inman horse, Rose's Pepino, you could almost write a book about, a very strange story, was originally claimed from Jennifer Johnston at Mountaineer, she of all the West Virginia bred long shots, and then went on to nothing but success. Mike Papata was the trainer record when this horse was crazy good, and 25 claimers and 3 other than allowances at Mahoney. And he is that rarest of creatures, or at least he used to be, a stone cold sustained type, the way they classify running styles on Brisnet. And by that I mean just a complete dead closer. Does not make his move around the turn, makes his move the final quarter mile. In Golden Sylvia style, if some of you remember Golden Sylvia out there, the great Golden Sylvia from the golden age of the early 1970s of Old Waterford Park, then you know what I'm talking about. That kick has not been in evidence this year from Rose's Pepino. 1 or 2 of the races are better than they look and would compete here. And you know what? If Heart of Stray leads him on a Mary Chase and backs up, and Man on the Moon and Grimes retreat a little bit too, as they're not unlikely to do. Cacao's got a front running style. Number 7. They could be playing Rose's Pepino's song up top, but he likes a wet track, so not a bad spot for a prospective form reversal from Rose's Pepino. If the big guy still got it in him. Number 7, Cacao is as low as 2-1, dropping from that 17.5 claimer on turf. This horse seems to hate the turf, and that was almost certainly a design tune-up for this. Cacao can be lightly rated just a little bit. Would have to concede the lead probably to Heart of Stray here. When he won, though, he was supposed to with 30 cents and 20 cents on the dollar in races that were inflated with a claiming price at 12.5 because those were 2 life and 3 life spots. He wasn't supposed to lose. Cacao, so he's potentially a force here. But I don't know about 2-1 on Cacao, huh? I see where my man Bombs Away Bob Grant's in the house. Good guy, nice guy, a good handicapper too, who has been loyal to the mountain for a long, long time. Bombs Away Bob Grant. So welcome in, Bob. Good to have you, my man. Very good to have you. You know what I'm going to do eventually? Some giveaways when this thing starts to get up and running. And what I was thinking about, and it seems like right now it is the denizens, the people that were just hardcore fans of my show from the mountain when I hosted the in-house handicapping feed. Is this ridiculous? Or would it be a prize that somebody would appreciate? I was thinking when I reached maybe 200, maybe 500 subscribers, I was thinking of giving away my original, my prototype Mountaineer Nation hoodie, which is tattered and beat up and faded at this stage, but it was the original when I started the whole concept of Mountaineer Nation. And I've purposely avoided the idea of recongregating Mountaineer Nation under the same name because it's a whole different deal. I no longer work for Mountaineer. And I'm definitely going to have some dungeon paraphernalia made up. T-shirts, hoodies and stuff like that. I don't know if I'm going to sell them or not, but I will definitely give them away from now on and then from time to time. I got to find the right place that can emblazon my logo with the 2 mean horses facing off and my motto on those hoodies. So I'll have a hoodie giveaway, a T-shirt giveaway, maybe once a week or something like that, once I get the subscription level up. But would anybody want my original, the prototype Mountaineer Nation hoodie, which was one of one? It was one of one for a long time before I started having them made up and sent to fans that consider themselves card-carrying members of the great and mighty and sprawling Mountaineer Nation. So that might be the first thing I give away, something very dear to me that I've worn 1,000 times myself and was the original Mountaineer Nation hoodie. So quick take on the tote board here. And Grimes to be as low as 5-2 might be a little bit surprising to me. This outfit did just win one by many a lengths. And the hot barn angle works really well at Mountaineer. So even at 2-5, that kind of an authoritative win from the same barn that Jay Rivers just posted probably enhances the chances of Grimes a little bit here. I think Grimes has got to be tactfully ridden. I'm not sure Renzo Diaz has any tactfulness in his nature there. I do think Tis a White-Faced Cat is a major player here. And I was correct about the odds too when I itemized this as one of my misconstrued morning line price points was listed 10-1, and I knew it would go lower, and it's 7-2 right now. I'm very disappointed in the price on a horse that I very obviously liked, and I liked him a lot. I think that was really apparent from my commentary on the race, and I listed him as a horse that I knew wasn't going to go off at 10-1. That was just a ridiculously amateurish price point on Mountaineer's much maligned morning line. My insights weren't that unique in there, so I'm not surprised that he went down, but 2-1 seems a little skinny on Tis a White-Faced Cat to me. I liked him a lot. To add a little juice to my pre-race analysis there, I definitely liked Roses Pepino for a piece because he loves a wet track and because he's a stone cold closer who I thought would have a good chance for a form reversal in a race that was loaded with early foot. And that hasn't been the scenario necessarily with all those 25s and near 25s in his recent races. Not good setups for Roses Pepino. The dynamics here with a breakaway leader that's got to prove he's back in form this year in Hardestry. And a horse like Grimes, who's shaky at the distance, Cacao, who's got an aggressive style that is not going to be flattered by the opposing presence of Hardestry. All this figured a setup for somebody to close deep. And I thought that Tis White-Faced Cat was ridden well by Kevin Gonzalez very patiently. Sometimes the horse can get on the chase, which would not have helped his cause there. Had an executive decision to make halfway around the first turn to go ahead and try to maintain position or to take back. And in this case, patience and discretion was a better part of valor. So I kind of like the way that Exacta came out there and kind of saw it coming with Tis a White-Faced Cat on top and Roses Pepino second there. Roses Pepino loomed, as they say, menacingly in mid-stretch, right? And thanks for showing up, guys. It means the world to me. It just means everything to get some encouragement, to come back and do not only what I do best, but the only thing I really know how to do in the world. It seriously is. You should see how awkward I am at managing some other tasks of fatherhood and being a husband and stuff like that. I could write a book, a comedy book about getting this house built. It wasn't easy. About 4 years ago, we built a new house here, my wife and I, mainly for our son, Little Bear, who's mildly autistic. So he's got a forever home when we're gone, and a very comfortable one. And that entailed paying cash, which just, oh my goodness. How can I leave the man a mortgage though when I'm gone and when my wife is gone? And I was so without knowledge in the ways of building homes and learned so much and was fortunate enough to find some people I could trust amongst a lot of the contractors that I couldn't trust. And again, I could write a book about it. Maybe someday I will. But your support is much appreciated. And you know what? I don't consider you guys my viewers. I consider you guys a lot more than that. These last two races, I can say this right on YouTube, but I couldn't say it. I don't want to completely break decorum here. If you notice, I haven't dropped an F-bomb yet. And I probably let about 400 of them fly per day in my real life when I'm not on camera. So I've been pretty good about that. But I can definitely push the envelope a little bit and say that these last two races, and again, not because they lack quality. My mantra here in this new place called The Dungeon, my new YouTube channel, is no horse race too low. And the corollary mantra is it's always 1980 here because I'm an old school, low-tech handicapper, kind of an anti-cog guy, anti-algorithm. But anyways, not because these fields lack quality, because a lot of times you can get a strong opinion in a field full of just woeful forms, but because I just don't see much of a toehold in either of these last two races. So I'm going to stick around and at least look at the seventh race along with you guys, but I really can't offer much in the way of insight when it comes to these last couple of events. I really can't, guys. And I am not an analyst / handicapper who's going to fake it. I never, ever fake it. That'd be irresponsible. I can remember when one or two of my fellow employees at Mountaineer, they used to come in and say, and we'll kind of shoot the breeze here as much as we're going to look at these last couple of races, would come into the studio and say, after I would say, I'm going to go to Pasadena here if I'm you guys. I don't like this race. I don't have a real good opinion. I don't think it's a good gambling race. And management, much to their credit, always gave me the latitude because they considered my credibility more important than maybe momentarily boosting the handle on any given event. But some of the fellow employees who thought they were racing experts and didn't know squat, some of the stewards and stuff would come into the studio and say, "You got to say fire with both fists." No, never, never. Just not how I roll. The seventh race is just a woeful West Virginia Red Maiden special weight field to go 5.5 furlongs. And I saw a question in the comments there, how I get along with Peter Berry. I will tell you how I get along with Mr. Peter Berry. For a long time, Pete and I were on tenuous footing because it was kind of like dueling egos. And I used to joke around and say if Pete and I had an ego contest. And I'm pretty well known as a guy who's really not modest. But you know what? I got past the point where I had any illusions that I was the smartest guy in the room, in any room. And Pete and I, big egos, and both, I think, pretty good at what we do. And I think each of us wanted to be the big dog, so to speak, in the marquee in Mountaineer for the longest time. And there was tension there for sure. But you know what? We came to a point, I think the tipping point was when McMichael left our jolly little Three Musketeers production thing. And we were a great team, the three of us. But Pete and I continued to be a great team and recognized in McMichael's absence how much we needed each other and how well we meshed as a team, announcer, analyst. And you know what? We understood there was room in Dodge City for the both of us. The town was big enough for the two of us. And I became very appreciative of Pete's work. And I think the opposite, I think the reverse was true as well. And Pete and I became much friendlier and kind of became mutual admirers, did Mr. Peter Berry and I. And I certainly wish Peter well. And I have nothing but respect for his craft. He's an artist in what he does. As far as the question, if I heard from Pete, I'm going to be really honest here and really blunt. After my rather abrupt departure from Mountaineer, and I am nobody's little victim. I wasn't mistreated. I wasn't done wrong. The company did not operate outside their rights. I wasn't strong-armed or let out with billy clubs or in handcuffs or anything like that. I'd already given my resignation. They didn't fire me. They just chose to exercise their option to hasten my departure. Not that I have any good feelings for them, any warm fuzzies, and I'm sure the reverse is true as well. But I'm not a victim. I'm not a little victim. But I will say this. The number of Mountaineer coworkers and horsemen that I interacted with on a mutually respectful basis for decades at Mountaineer. And this really stings when it comes to coworkers and subordinates and stuff like that, and people from other walks of the company. The number that contacted me after my abrupt departure from Mountaineer, just to ask, "Hey, Mark, are you okay?" 0. That's the empty set, baby. That is 0. You got one helping hand in this world, guys. And I'm certainly not going to offer up life advice because it ain't my specialty. I've made a mess of mine over the years. But I learned one thing after my departure from Mountaineer. The only help you got is the hand at the end of your sleeve. Because again, the number of persons employed either on the backstretch at Mountaineer or as coworkers for the company at Mountaineer that contacted me after my rather sudden departure, just to check if I was okay. 0. Absolutely 0. And that's the last time I'm going to say that. But yeah, Pete and I are friendly, and I got nothing but respect for the guy, and I certainly wish him the best. A 5.5 7th race made the special West Virginia breds. I think I warned you guys that I really don't have much in the way of insight here. And I see where Little Bear Patterson has made the scene. Do you need anything in particular, Bear?
Yeah, do you think it would be inappropriate for me to go and take my walks?
No, not at all. Just be careful. My man wants to know if it's inappropriate for him to go take a towny walk in nearby the thriving non-metropolis of Chester. And my man's a little bit eccentric and likes to go on a walk on a little constitutional. And he's been doing it after dark because he's got a job. My man is gainfully employed now. Knock on wood that it stays that way for him, Little Bear, our 30-year-old who lives with us. So I just mentioned we built a house for him. And the reason I'm going so far off campus here is because I don't want to talk about this race or even the last race, just to be blunt about it. And it just came down to ask me if, in my opinion, if it is okay for him to go for a walk in Chester after dark. Yeah, it's okay, Bear. There'll be people on the streets, but I wouldn't go on the back streets or in the residential areas because there are going to be dogs and people are going to wonder what you're doing there. Okay?
I will, even though it's mom's birthday,
I will catch you later, little bear.
I'll catch you later.
And be sure to come back because it's your mom's birthday, my man. She'll come back before too long, okay? Sorry, but I digress and gave you a little slice of my daily life there, guys. I have no opinion on this race, and I'm going to stay true to my word and just stay the heck out of it. I will say John Schuler, who sends out the 7-5 favorite, Candy for Cynthia in here. Candy for Cynthia was closing because, man, did that race slow up in the late stages in the worst way. It was kind of a here they all come affair. John Schuler's got a phenomenal record, though, in these restricted races. Here's a guy that can't win a Charlestown, West Virginia bred race, but our state bred races up here are so much softer that he's made a lot of money in these kind of races here. J. Michael Baird sends out a Cal Nation, who is 7-1, first time to the post. Cal Nation's proven a pretty good substitute sire. Who will never be another Mockin. But after Mockin's demise, Mike's big West Virginia bred sire, he bought Cal Nation. Mike's a pretty good judge of bloodlines. But again, as I mentioned last time, when he had a firster taking play, the form stat, which is showing him at 2 for 8 with first time starters, only goes back about 2 years. Whereas if you pull up the whole 5-year full Monty, Mike's 2 for like 40 with first time starters. So not really his forte. I can't find much life in anybody else besides the other Mike horse, who's 6-1 Doom Loop, who was at least in the money last couple of times. Although the horse that trounced that field, Eyes for Candy, just had an awful set of past performances. The 8 horse is scratched. I would have liked the 8 horse in here. I would have taken a much more favorable view of potentially betting on this race without the defection of number 8. So not a race I'm going to bet, not a race I'm interested in. Thanks for listening to a little bit behind the scenes stuff, a glimpse or two of my real daily life. Guys, just to interject again, I had a request to read the comments, and I try to read as many of them as I can. And since I don't want to talk about the last race, I'm going to read as many comments as I possibly can after this race. And we'll respond to whatever questions are interspersed with the comments, and I will read as many of them as I can, I promise, because I want this to be an interactive thing. I want this to be your show as well, not just my show. Trainer John Schuler's money in those kind of bum Mountaineer. There's a Freudian slip, Mountaineer bread. Made in special weight races. And you know what they made? That horse a closer last time because they were stopping in front. Same situation here with Hobnob's Girl. Almost certain to go out there and open the lead and then back up. So candy for Cynthia. They made him a closer again. The likeliest winner, but even money. So you can't get rich on that. Everybody else would have had the same insights as me or probably you in that race. And I promised I'd read the comments. And you know what? I'm not an emotional guy at all. As a matter of fact, I'm notorious for not using the L word to people close to me in my life. I just don't. I just never do, because my philosophy is, and I read this one time, it's not original. Life's greatest truths are never spoken. To speak them weakens them. And when I'm not on camera, I am less refined, less sophisticated, and probably a little rougher and more physical than you might ascertain from watching me on television. Not an emotional guy, but your support and some of the comments almost kind of gets to me when I read them tonight, because it's been a while for me since I was able to do what I want to do and what I do best. Promised I would read the comments, guys. Andy says, I became good friends with the manager of the race book at Mohegan Sun. He gave selections out to his patrons. I've seen race book managers that did that before. Dave Bickerstaff was famous for that. Superior handicapper. We ran the Mountaineer simulcast room for years. Chris Connor said, I used to look forward to Mark's opening monologues. I'm going to get back to the cold openers and come at you guys from angles you never dreamed I would. I used to love doing that, kind of like Saturday Night Live would come with the cold openers on my Mountaineer show, and I'm going to get back to it here too. Sad era for TVG ending. Yeah, after 65 years. Yeah, I feel badly for anybody that does what I do, that talks racing, and no longer has a job. I feel really bad for them. What's your opinion regarding 3-year-olds versus older fillies in a cheap race like this 8th at this time of year? That's really complicated and would take longer than I have here. I promise I'll get into it on some future occasion. I promise I will. And I'm not blowing your question off. Ho-Jin Lee says, I've been around racetracks for 40 years. Management at most tracks are miserable people. Bob's away. Bob said +7 seconds, final 16th. Yeah, they made that horse a closer, Bob. I don't think he's a strong finisher. I think he's just the tallest little person. I can't say midget, right? The tallest little person in that race when it comes to homestretch power. George wants to hear about stuff that transpired decades ago. I got a lot of that, George, and there'll be a lot of that here on my show, believe me. Because you know my motto, baby. I started out with no horse race too low, and we're going to flip over to it's always 1980 here. Somebody's been going to Foxwoods 3 or 4 nights. Fabulous race book there. And there I'm saying, I'll read your comments. Somebody said I'm a 10 on racing knowledge and communications. I don't know about that, but it's flattering. Thank you. I just keep it real. I am who I am. I am who I am, baby. Giovanni's Construction said, get approved to broadcast races on your feet. I don't know if I can do that. I'd love to, and I know it's awkward to get flipping back and forth, which will keep my viewership down. I understand. I fully understand that I'm operating in an extreme disadvantage that the Mountaineer in-house handicappers don't suffer, because you can watch the races the same place. You absorb their commentary. Please, I get it. Jerry Mack says, Mark, please read the comments. We're going to rock this. You better believe we are, baby. Happy birthday to the missus, says Andy. Yeah, you know what? She's great. Just absolutely great. She is my rock. I think I said before on the show, she's an RN at a nearby medical center. So she is the breadwinner in the family since I departed Mountaineer. And she's devoutly religious too, which would on the surface make her and I a bad pairing. And plus she's a country girl, and I'm not exactly an urbanite, but I'm kind of in between. I'm not exactly man of the land, which I'm not Oliver Wendell Douglas. Well, I am kind of Oliver Wendell Douglas. I'm out of place on my 1.5 acres here, which is a lot for me, complete with garden, that my wife and I had commissioned at her behest. It's a lot. I got some beautiful shrubs out front. I'll show some pictures of some that in my house to you guys. Bobby says, Shane the man. I do dig me some Little Bear. I live for him. He is the most important thing in the world to me. Way more important than myself. That doesn't make me a great dad. It doesn't make me a great person. Because I don't know if this was in the Bible or not. We're going way off campus here because I don't want to talk about the last race. I don't know if this is in the Bible or not, but a great quote that I read once says, even Satan loves those who love him. In other words, I don't think you get a lot of cosmic credit for being devoted, slavishly devoted to your kids. I think that pretty well comes with the territory, right? I'm getting back to read more of your comments because I promised I'd get through as many as I can. George says, I was a regular on there, never went back after that fateful day until Mark started up his YouTube site. I call you friend. Not much else I can say. And Todd McCullough, know this guy forever. Such a cool guy and like a brother to me. Like a brother, said Mark is as silky with his showmanship as he is with his smooth jump shot. Yeah, 3 or 4 decades ago, Todd, I was a player. And I'm still known for my round ball feats in the surrounding area around here. So, you know, when I go into a grocery store or something like that, in one of the small nearby boroughs, it's about 50-50 when I get recognized, if it's going to be for the show or for my decades-old basketball exploits, really, seriously. Some guys still recognize me for my basketball skills from back in the day. And I know it's kind of hard for you guys to wrap your minds around that because I don't look like an athlete. And I didn't look like an athlete even then when I was 90 pounds lighter than I am now. But yeah, I am still known in this area for my my atrophied basketball skills. Although my girl Caitlin Clark, Cece, has regenerated my interest in shooting some hoops. And I did go last week and buy a basketball and a pump. So someday soon, I'm going to go shoot around where nobody can see me and watch me, and I'll at least work up to some free throws. I used to think like 50 in a row, like no issue whatsoever, and clear my mind by going to the park and shooting free throws. And I was quite a shooter back in the day. I was a selfish player who never gave it up once I touched it, but I could score inside at a post-up game, at a perimeter game, and I could score outside as well. And I had a lot of handle. For a big slow guy, just a ton of handle with a basketball. But I'm going to go see now if I can still make a layup. And it's going to be just delicious to attempt it again. So what else do we have here in the comments? Push the envelope, says Chris Connors. Oh, I will. It is my nature, my good friend. It is my nature. I kind of dig his wife, by the way. Am I supposed to say that on the air? In the most wholesome way, Chris. In the most wholesome way, mind you, my good man. Michael Zeisel says, Mark, I've been autistic since I was 16. Nobody really told me until I was 65. Yeah, I don't think Shane fell too far from the tree, his apple either. I'm not autistic, but I'm so obsessive in my interests. And I got such a short attention span. I know I'm ADD and I've never been diagnosed. I do have some skill as a writer, and I pen a weekly column, or at least I used to before this became more time consuming. And one of my requirements, one of my conditions to pen this column for an online publication was, you got to let me write about whatever I want, not just horse racing. And they gave me the latitude. I do have some game. I got some chops as a writer. But one thing that keeps me from attempting a novel, and I wanted to forever, is I don't have the attention span. I sit and I write for 10 minutes. I get up and I walk around for 20 minutes. I watch TV for 20 minutes, and then I write another 2 sentences because I have the attention span of a gnat. Anything else here? I'll skip the part about where you guys are trying to figure out how to help me pay for some of this equipment, which I much appreciate. Somebody says I'm a good guy. Like anybody else, I'm complicated, and I've been called complicated when I'm off camera. There's something about the super chat stuff. And I guess there is some demand. Wayne says, great to be here, Mark. Welcome in, Wayne. Much appreciated. Some talk about the deer. I have slain like maybe 8 deer with my various vehicles. My vehicles should be dubbed the deer slayers. They're an infestation. I know they're beautiful when you don't have them, but when they run into your car 8 times, you hate them. You don't want to see them. I'm just being honest about this, candid. And a lot of nights I get like 10 or 12 in my backyard, seriously, which a lot of people would consider so desirable and so beautiful, and which does make this a bucolic setting. I'm kind of out from civilization, but close enough to get to where I want to go. My nearest neighbor's like a couple of 100 yards away. And the problem with the deer is they eat my beautiful shrubs, my arborvitae trees in particular, which makes me despise the deer. So I think I've gotten through as many of the comments as I can. Hate the last race. All the best to you guys. We will do it again tomorrow, 15 minutes until the first post. Mark Patterson, out.